Today we're talking about launching a no-fail personal brand. Whether you are an entrepreneur starting out, maybe having done this for a while, or even if you're an employee at a company, you still need to work on your personal brand. What is that exactly? How do we do this? How do we do this in a legit way? How do we be our best version of ourselves and put our best foot forward so that we can get ahead faster and have better results? That's what we're talking about today. Welcome to the income stream. If you're here live, say hello to your friends here. Thank you for coming in. Martin, Emily, Asma, Pavan, Peasant, Stephanie, GTO, all the usual suspects in the house. And if you are brand new here, thank you so much. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And hook me up with a thumbs up as well. It helps other people find this video too. And we're going to have a lot of fun. Now, if you are watching the replay, make sure you stick around because this isn't just for those who are here live. I do recommend you come in live if you can. But if you can't, you'll still get a ton of value, and we have a special guest today. And if you happen to know who this special guest may be, I want you to let me know in the chat. We're going to bring this person on in just a moment, but for right now, welcome to the income stream. Here we go.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
All right, we have some guesses in the house. We have some guesses, which is pretty cool. We got Karma in the house. Thank you to all the moderators here in the chat, by the way, keeping things going, keeping things safe and happy for everybody. I appreciate you for that. Let's see. We got Ryan in the house, Scooby, CNC Creative Vlogs. Hello, Francis. Okay, so who here believes they have a personal brand? I hope that all of you say me, because you in fact do. Whether you are the face of your company or not, whether you are an employee or not, you still are a personal brand. And it's really important to have other people be able to see what we're all about. That's really what this is. I once heard from a good friend of mine that your brand is essentially what people say about you when you're not there. And the idea of a personal brand is, obviously there's the personal part of it, but the brand part of it, there's different components that we must have and have to surface in order for this stuff to make sense for others. And of course, online, especially with websites, with our social profiles, all these things have to work in harmony for us to be able to put our best foot forward. And I'm glad I'm seeing a lot of people saying that they have personal brands here. A lot of people, when they see smartpassiveincome.com, they associate that with myself, Pat Flynn. And that is a personal brand, even though it's not in my domain name, right? And then, of course, you have personal brands like the Tim Ferriss Show, Dave Ramsey, and all those kinds of people. Well, there is a person who I know who happens to know a lot about building personal brands, and they have come on as a guest today, and they're waiting in the waiting room. I'm about to bring this person in just a moment. But I'll tell you, this person has completely changed my life in so many different ways. They are a good family friend. And more than that, they have taught me how to be a professional when it comes to business. Because for a while, I was just doing everything on my own. And then eventually this person opened my eyes to this world of not just getting online and putting your best self forward, but having other people support you in that regard. So without further ado, I'm super, super excited to welcome our special guest today, Chris Ducker. What's up, Chris? How are you, my man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing excellent, my friend. Very excited to see you here. And I wasn't lying when I said that you know a lot about personal brands. In fact, this has become your main thing to help people with personal brands. For a while, you were known as sort of the virtual assistant guy, right? The VA guy, and you've helped me with that. But even more so now, you helped me discover how to put my best foot forward online. Can you define for us really quick, like, what is a personal brand and why is it so important, especially nowadays?
Well, I mean, your personal brand at the end of the day is your reputation. It is what people say about you when you're not around, right? It's also when we talk about content creating and being an entrepreneur, being a business builder, your personal brand is also what you are known for as well. Like, so when you're not at that conference and your name pops up, how are people talking about you? That's your personal brand, right? When you're not at that dinner party or that coffee meeting, that's your personal brand. And so I think it's important today because with so many people, particularly in 2020, let's not go down this rabbit hole, but particularly in 2020, the fact of the matter is that a lot of people are changing their career paths. You know, a lot of people are they're starting up their own businesses. And I get pumped up about this stuff, as I know you do. Like, I'm super excited right now about people with just, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years of experience, 15, 20, 25 years of experience under their belt in a niche, in an industry. No matter what they're doing, who they're doing it for, they're now turning around and saying, hey, you know what? There's certain things that are a little bit out of my control here. How much can I control? What will that look like if I go out and do my own thing? And that's why I'm so excited right now, because from a personal branding perspective, this is huge. This is about actually being future proof more than anything else.
What do you mean by that exactly? I think that's a really important point, but how does this make you future proof?
Well, because when you build, I mean, I think you were in the room, right? Like, I was in that room when the term
this room right
youpreneur, that room right there. I was in your place when the word youpreneur was born, and a youpreneur, by the very definition, is somebody who builds a business based around them, their expertise, their experience, their personality, and the people that they want to serve, right? So I saw lots of guesses in the chat here. And people like Marie Forleo, Sunny Lenarduzzi, Stu McLaren, all these people, they all have big businesses, as do you and I, but we're also well known within our field for what we do, and that fuels the business forward. In regards to being future proof, what's so excited about this is that when you build the business of you, it's 100% original. It can't be copied. It doesn't matter what niche you're in or what industry you're serving. There's only one you. So our job really is to lean into that uniqueness factor of what makes us us, and actually do it in a relatively unapologetic way. I want you to go all out on it. You just do what you do all the time and don't apologize. And that's what makes you so future-proof. It's exciting.
So when it comes to, so there's a lot of components to this. You mentioned your expertise and all the experience that you have under your belt. You've mentioned your personality. I want to talk about that expertise first, because I know a lot of people who want to start their own personal brands. There's a lot of people in the room and watching this video right now who have an expertise, who have information, but on the surface, it may not be quote unquote unique enough for them to consider bringing it forward. How does one, with regards to information, make it special enough to have its own essential brand, or not feel like you're just second place or copying others when it comes to the information that you're sharing?
So it's very hard to talk about this and answer that question without bringing up the topic of imposter syndrome. Now, I know you've probably covered this on this show at some point. You're 200 plus days in. I'm almost 100% positive it's popped up once or twice.
We have done a whole episode on this, yes.
There you go. So, and you can link to it now. Those, you overachievers in the comments section, right? That Team Flynn. Somebody get a comment in there with a link to the episode. But the fact of the matter is that this is where a lot of people stumble pretty much almost immediately in this journey, and we want to try and avoid this if we can. And so what happens is they look at what Pat is doing. They look at what Chris is doing, or Gary Vee is doing, or Amy Porterfield is doing, or whoever it might be, and they think, well, I'm screwed fundamentally. Like, this is not going to work. They're so much further away. They've achieved so much. They're making so much money. They've got so many people on their list. They've got all these stories to tell, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact of the matter is that all of the above mentioned have all started from step number one at some point. And so our job is to appreciate the fact and also acknowledge the fact that we cannot and we should not be comparing our first step or our 8th or 10th or 50th step to somebody else's 200th or 500th or 600th step. Like that's a bad move right out of the gate. And it's a shame. It's a shame, because there are genuine people that the world needs to hear from. And there are people out there, a tribe ready and waiting to be built for these people. And they quit right at the beginning because of that imposter syndrome taking over. And we want to try and eliminate that and get rid of that immediately.
So when we're first starting out, I think a common question is, okay, I have information, I understand I need to bring my best self forward, my personality needs to show up, but where? Do we start a blog? Do we start a podcast? Do we start a YouTube channel? Do we start social channels in terms of like actual work and the grinding that we're going to do? Where should we focus that time and effort? How would you recommend that?
It's a really, really good question. And I 100%, yeah, here's the thing. It's never been easier to build a business based around your expertise, right? It's never been easier to build a personal brand. There's a problem with that though. And it's not a very good one to acknowledge. And that is that the barrier to entry is so low now. Pretty much anybody can get online and start talking about how amazing they are. And that's where obviously you've got to pick your shots a little bit. But the short answer to that question, quite frankly, is to do what is most natural to you. If you're more of a talker than a typer, don't try and blog your way to success. Instead, start recording a podcast. If you have no issues being in front of a camera, then hop on to YouTube and start creating content and serving people that way. But something really remarkable, two things happen actually, which are really, really exciting in the first 6 to 12 months or so as we're building our business. And that is that, number one, we start to create content that we think, and there's the key word there, hence the emphasis in my docile British tones, right? That we think people want to hear from us or see from us or watch from us, right? And after about 6 to 8 months or so, it's a bit of a slow burner, but stick with me. After 6 to 8 months of doing that very, very consistently, your tribe will just appear. They'll present themselves slowly but surely in comments or DMs or retweets or whatever it is. And then you can actually start dialogue with these people and you can start finding out what they really want to hear from you. And that's where the magic happens, because you go from creating and publishing and marketing content that you think people need and want from you to just a very short time later creating and marketing content that you know people need. And that's where the magic happens.
Right. And there's a lot of different ways to have that dialogue, right? Like in the comments section, just in the direct messages on your social media platforms. I like to reach out to people on my email list and even still today, get on a Skype call with them or on a Zoom call to learn more. Because now, like you said, in the beginning, you're kind of taking educated guesses, right? And if you are an example of your own target audience, then you kind of have an idea of what your target audience might want to see or hear. But eventually you can get to the point where you don't have to guess anymore. And I think you want to try to get there as soon as possible. The next question I want to ask, and thank you, chat, for commenting. A lot of people loving what they're hearing and confirming. Peasant Uprising saying, loving this discussion. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you. So the question I have is, okay, when we show up, how do we show up? No matter where we show up, how do we as our own 100% unique self show up? Does this mean I have to like post pictures of me eating breakfast every morning? Does this mean I have to, go into, a deep conversation how much I love Pokemon cards? Like, is that it? Or like, how does one bring that uniqueness, that personality, like you said? It makes sense on paper to do that, but when it comes down to it, what in fact do we need to do?
Yeah, these little things that you've brought up, like the love of Pokemon cards, or the fact that you say, for example, every single morning you have muesli and blueberries for breakfast. Like, these little things are what I call kind of like almost mini magnets, right? Those that get you and understand that, they'll become attracted to those little things. Our very good friend Sean Kennel begins every single day on his Instagram stories with his rise and grind. It's the start of a new day, new possibilities, new opportunities. Let's crush. That's a mini magnet right there. When people see him, they might have never have interacted with him ever before in person. But when they meet him at a conference or a book signing or from stage or whatever it is, They know that that's Sean. That's that little mini magnet thing, right? So if you want to get on and talk about the fact that you've got a promo set of Pokemon cards at a PSA 10 and they're going to be worth 10 grand in 5 years from now, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, because those that get it will come your way, right? But in terms of like how you start showing up, you've got to start showing up by providing the value for what you want to be known for. And this is why I suggest to everybody that you do what I call the self-awareness test, right? And I talk about this in Rise of the Upreneur right at the beginning, and that is that it's a very simple test. It's a paper, you draw a line down the middle of it. On the left-hand side, you write down all the things that you're really, really good at, the things that you love doing, the things that you love being involved with. And then on the other side of the page, you write down all the things that you're not very good at. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's a tough list to put together because we like to think that we're amazing at everything, but that's not the case. Once you've got that, what you do is lean into the stuff that you're really good at and get rid of all the stuff that you're not very good at. You delegate it, you put it on pause, it sits on the shelf, whatever it is. You show up by producing content based on your strengths, based on the things that you're passionate. And the people that are out there, when you market like a magnet, like I say, they'll come your way. And then something remarkable happens. At the exact same time, you repel, just like a magnet, you repel the wrong people away. We don't want those in our ecosystem. We want the people that understand what we're all about. And that's why we need to show up with ultimately being what we want to be known for.
I think that idea of
repel. We can also talk about Pokemon cards as well if you want. I mean, you know, it's
you and I could definitely talk for days about that for sure.
We could.
Fun fact, I was in London last year with Chris and our families were together, and we just spent like 3 days together opening a bunch of Pokemon cards together with our kids. And I'm wondering who had more fun, the kids or us. But it was a good time.
You know it was us. Let me just paint the picture. Let's go a little deeper on this because I know you guys love Pat and you tune in every day for this. So we wake up, we've been watching some YouTube videos. Pat and I have been sort of talking about, reminiscing about Pokemon and things like this. The kids are there, and we wake up one morning and over breakfast, Pat says, let's just put like a couple of $100 each in, and we'll just go out to a few stores and we'll just kind of like, you know, buy as many packs as we can for a couple of $100 each, and we'll bring them back and we'll just surprise the kids. Okay, great. So we go out. We spent more than a couple of $100, but nonetheless, we went out and we got a load of Pokemon cards. We came back, and then Pat, before we kind of unleashed this surprise to the kids, Pat turns around and says, "This is like one of my biggest dreams come true." Where he would like save up his pocket money for, you know, like 2 weeks to get one pack of cards. Now I think how many packs do we have? Like 90 packs or something?
Yeah, it was kind of stupid.
Yeah,
but it was the best time ever.
It was a lot of fun. And the kids had a good time. We had a better time, no doubt about it.
It was super fun. Now I want to go back to what you had just mentioned about repelling certain people, because I think that a lot of us want to try and get as many people into our brand as possible. But what you're kind of saying is like, we don't actually want that to be true. I think I love what Karma here says. He says, I call that person my anti-avatar, like the person that you want to repel out. I really love that term. Tell us a little bit more about why it's okay if people don't follow us. I think we get so bogged down with the numbers, and sometimes if we just kind of be ourselves, we almost feel like we're just kind of lollygagging and not really trying to get as many people into our brand as possible. Give us another confirmation on why it's okay to draw a line in the sand and say, no, we don't want you. This is for a certain group of people.
I mean, I remember many, many, many years ago. I mean, I'm still in the sales and marketing, but many, many moons ago here in the UK, I was in the publishing world, periodicals, British medical journals, a whole bunch of other stuff. And one of my mentors, my first ever real mentor, his name was Graham Bond. He was no relation to 007, but he was pretty smooth and suave. I'll give him that. And Graham, I remember I was in a bit of a slump I was doing some some telemarketing and kind of qualifying prospects for some of our advertising campaigns at the time. And I was in a bit of a slump one afternoon, and he took me to one side. He said, "What's the problem? I can see you're not picking up the phone that much. You're kind of mulling around the water cooler a little bit too much. Like, what's the deal?" And I said to him, like, I can't get a yes, man. People are putting the phone down on me, typical telemarketing stuff. And he turned around and he said to me, "Understand this, Chris, and you'll never be able to change this, ever. You cannot please all the people all the time. You cannot please all the people all the time." And so I feel when you're building the business of you shouldn't even try and please the people that don't get you and need you and want to show up for you and support you and buy your stuff and talk about you and share and gift your book to people and all that kind of stuff, right? We had a guy, one of our members of our Upreneur incubator program, just last week bought 25 copies of my book to give away as Christmas gifts. They're the kind of people that you want in your ecosystem. What you don't want in your ecosystem is on day 29 of your 30-day money back guarantee, that person's asking for that $49 back. You don't want those kind of people in your ecosystem. You can't build a business based around those types of people. So you want, that's why I would say, like, people get hung up on, oh, my list is too small and, all this kind of stuff. Like, no, not at all, man. Because if you've got 100 people on your list and those people are opening every email, clicking on every link, sharing every post you put out there, buying every product you create, you've got a great business, a great business. And so, I feel very strongly about the fact that you should market like a magnet. You want to repel away the people that are not part of your tribe, and your vibe will attract your tribe, right? So just do you all the time, plain simple.
Love it. Many of the people here watching have heard me say that before. Your vibe will attract your tribe. You are, at least as far as I know, the origin of that quote. And I share it all the time. I try to give you credit as much as possible, but I love that. And this idea of like marketing like a magnet, we don't often think about the repelling part of the magnet either. And I love that sort of analogy there for sure. Bernard here said, remember that you are allowed to fire your customer. That's a really, really smart quote. Thank you, Bernard, for that. And they're talking about it in the chat. Others doing the same thing too. I do want to give a quick promo shout out to your book, Rise of the Upreneur. You've written several books. This is the latest and greatest, and 427 ratings. Let me share it with you in the chat right now. This is it, and you can check it out on Amazon. I'd highly recommend it. Chris has exercises like the one he mentioned earlier about figuring out what you should lean into. He's had some other things in there too. It's a great book. I continue to hear people talk about it, Chris, and so check it out, Rise of the Upreneur. You also have something special going on that is coming up very soon that I want to talk about really quick and point people's attention to, and then we'll continue this discussion about building this sort of quote-unquote no-fail personal brand. And where should people go? What is coming up? I know there's some event or something happening coming up very soon.
Yeah, so, I mean, as you well know, November is usually my most favorite month of the entire year. And that is because I get to hold our annual Upreneur Summit conference in my hometown of London, England, at the beautiful Queen Elizabeth II Convention Centre, right opposite Westminster Abbey in London. This year, it's not happening for obvious reasons. You were the keynote on our inaugural event, actually, a good few years back. And I was kind of sitting, once we realized that we were going to cancel this thing for this year, I was kind of sitting around with my wife, Urs, and we were talking about what we could do to sort of try and fill that void a little bit and to still get the opportunity to be able to bring as many like-minded people together. And so what we've decided to do is we're going to be running our inaugural, our first ever profitable personal brand bootcamp. And this is going to be 3 hours over 3 days. So it's 1 hour each day, super easy for everybody to get involved with and digest. And we're basically going to be breaking down my build, market, and monetize business model that I've built, a 7-figure personal brand on, many of which, I know you've followed a lot of the stuff that I talk about, whether it was directly because I told you to or because you picked it up in yourself. Now, this is not rocket science. It's like anything else. If you have a step 1, step 2, step 3, a strategy built in, anything's possible. And we've developed a beautiful 10-page downloadable workbook for everybody so they can download it prior to the event and they can fill it all out as I'm coaching them through this build, market, monetize strategy. And it's free. Everything's free. I'm doing it all for free because I just want to bring lots of cool people together and hang out for a few days. Simple as that.
That's cool. Thank you for that. And I was blown away when you were giving this away for free. So I definitely want to point people toward that. If you go to chrisducker.com/bootcamp, chrisducker.com/bootcamp, you could sign up. I believe it starts in a couple weeks. And this would be the time to get involved with that. So again, chrisducker.com/bootcamp, and you can check out more of it there, download your workbook. I also see Emily Baker here on your testimonials inside this. Emily, I saw she came out with an Instagram this morning that her YouTube channel grew by like 20,000% in the last 6 days or something because of some content she's been grinding, and eventually, boom, it just like picked up. And she has a very clear personal brand. She's a very clear style. She's a lawyer, and she kind of reacts to these things that are happening in this sort of pop culture space with regards to legal work and things like that. And this recent thing that she did is just absolutely exploding. I'm super proud of that. And Emily's great.
Emily's the perfect example, man. She's the perfect example of somebody who had a career, who didn't want to do it anymore, but still has all this incredible experience and knowledge that, and regardless of whether you've been doing it for 15 years or 5 years or 3 years, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that people will pay to download your experience and put it from your data bank into their data bank to be able to springboard their own growth, right? To fast track their own growth. And Emily's the perfect example. When I first started working with her about 1.5 years ago as her coach, she didn't really have a personal brand website. She didn't have a podcast. She didn't do YouTube properly. She was all over the place. And, we spent a lot of time, probably about 6 months, with her just learning that it was okay to lean into everything that was uniquely her. So you want to have a giggle, have a giggle. You want to drop an F-bomb, that's up to you as well. If you want to do all these things and create all this conversation about what you're talking about, then go ahead and do it. And to be honest with you, I'm not even remotely amazed that she's blown up the way she has, particularly on YouTube over the last couple of months. And the reason why I can say that with so much sincerity is because she did it when she launched the podcast. It went big very quickly. And once she kind of really realized what she was all about and the whole kind of get legit thing came out about, she took it and she ran with it 180 miles an hour. And it doesn't surprise me at all that she's blowing up. Not at all, because she's the perfect example of what I'm talking about in terms of what's available and what's achievable.
That's awesome. So Emily D. Baker on YouTube. I know that you've also helped Azul, who's my students as well, but you've helped him with his personal brand and coaching program and whatnot. And he is my book coach, in fact. You've helped a lot of people, which is really cool. So again, check out that boot camp if you want to sign up for that. It's free, chrisducker.com/bootcamp. I wanted to ask you about, and the title of this video was the No Fail Personal Brand. I think true failure is when you give up. You reach a brick wall, or you have a not so great moment, and then you kind of retreat and you go back to what you were doing before. So, in a way, a little bit clickbaity, but the truth is true failure is giving up, and I don't want anybody to give up. But you're going to make mistakes. You're going to come across a lot of challenges. What are some of the most common challenges that people who are building a personal brand, putting themselves out there, face, and how might we overcome these challenges?
I think there's a couple of really big ones. The first one is not covering the kind of the foundational core concepts of what this means, and really that comes down to what you want to be known for and who you want to serve. They're the two big foundations here. If you don't have a very clear, and particularly, we're talking about when you get started, there is nothing, and I'm going to look very clearly into the camera lens here when I do this, there is nothing stopping you pivoting changing and moving in another direction at some point in the future, should you feel attracted to do so. Because once you've built the business of you, your following, your fans, your subscribers, your customers, your prospects, the people that get you and what you stand for, they will come with you. So it's absolutely fine to pivot at some point in the future. What you cannot do, and this is where a lot of people do fail pretty early on in this journey, is that they flip-flop at the beginning of things too much. You've got to find one thing that you can talk about coherently, with, for the right reasons, not just to be able to make a quick buck, and kind of really keep that consistently there all the time. You mentioned at the beginning of the stream that I was kind of known as the VA guy for a good few years, and I mean, really, we're talking 5, 6 years. I'm still known as a VA guy, maybe not the guy, but I still have a best-selling book out on the subject. I still have, an incredibly successful business within that industry as well. And we still serve people every single day through that business and through the work that I've done prior to that. But I mean, I lent into that, as you well know. I mean, we were on the speaking circuit together there in the US and Vegas and LA and New York and all these places. Like, I showed up every single time. VAs, virtual team, virtual team, virtual team. So find that thing that you feel you can speak really, really professionally on and genuinely serve people on and help people with, and stick with that for a little while. It's okay to pivot later on, but you've got to be consistent straight out of the gate for a certain period of time. And then the second leg to that foundational kind of chair is to appreciate the fact that not everybody's going to want to hear from you. And you've got to have that avatar. And I love, by the way, that term anti-avatar. I'm going to start using that. That was a good term. And, you've got to have the avatar, right? You've got to have the avatar in mind for when you're showing up consistently, for when you're creating that content or developing your first 1 or 2 products or writing your first book or getting in front of the camera or behind the microphone. If you don't have that avatar in mind, and be as intimate with them as you can, like get under their skin. Are they married? Do they have kids? Are they divorced? Are they in their 50s? Are they in their 20s? Et cetera, et cetera. Do they know what a cassette tape looks like? Or are they used to just pressing the button to hear their favorite song? All these things come into play. You've got to have a very clear picture on what you want to be known for, how you can help people, and then who those people really are deep down. If you do that, you'll have a much, much better chance of success.
Yeah, and that speaks perfectly to what we talked about on Tuesday here on the stream, where I started the stream with a quote from Hamilton, which is, if you don't know what you stand for, then who do you fall for, right? The idea of like, well, how are you going to band a group of people together if you yourself don't have anything that you stand up for, that you are clear, that you're drawing a line in the sand for? And then just by definition, by drawing that line in the sand, you are, of course, excluding people who shouldn't be on this side. Or you're going, hey, you belong here. Maybe you don't. And that kind of thing. And this is perfect for that, because, and I think the problem that we all face is we don't believe that we have the ability or the perhaps expertise or even are qualified to create something and stand for something, especially when we're so early on. So you're saying, no, pick a lane, own it, and then lean into those things that make you unique in and around that particular scene. Am I reading that correctly?
You're reading it 100% correctly, and do it unapologetically, because it's absolutely okay to not be a people pleaser.
Thank you for that. Karma here is asking, Chris, what are your thoughts on pivoting your main marketing channel? Say you're going from blogging to YouTube, and then, in fact, even stopping or slowing down the other. Good, bad?
I think it's absolutely fine to do so, as long as you let people know what's going on, and more importantly, the reason behind the change that you're making. I think it's absolutely fine. I wouldn't necessarily just cold turkey stop something. You've got to stitch that move together, right? So if, for example, a blog post on your blog is going to be your last ever blog post, and you're now going to become a podcaster. That last blog post, both at the top and at the bottom of that post, it has to very clearly say, this is my last blog post. I'm about to launch my podcast, which is where I'm going to be hanging out and serving you guys the way I've been doing it here on the blog going forward. To find out why I'm making this change, carry on reading, or if you wanted to, just click this link. You'll get the first episode of the podcast and you can just hear me talk about it instead. Got to stitch those things together. Don't just leave people hanging. But I think it's absolutely fine to pivot.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you for that. GTO here says, I signed up for the boot camp. Chris, I'm finally on your list.
That's good. Well, there you go. Welcome to the funny farm. Don't worry, we'll look after you.
The funny farm. That's awesome. When it comes to this idea of picking like the one thing, like how do you, for those like literally at the start, they have just gotten laid off or they're completely unhappy with their work. They see these opportunities out there, but they have many interests. They have many lanes they could go down. What would you do to determine perhaps which one to focus on? How do we get over the fact that we might choose the wrong one, if you will?
Here's a big thing, and I don't do rah-rah, as you know, right? That's not my style.
You've never encouraged me at all. Just kidding.
Not that it led to any good anyway. I believe, actually, and I'll get a little rah-rah here, is I think 99.9% of the time, you don't get to choose the thing. The thing actually chooses you. And it could be a subliminal thing and you don't really know what's going on. It just kind of happens. Or it could come to you immediately, pretty much right at the beginning of the decision-making process. And you'll be like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's what I'm going to do. This is going to be great. Going to help so many people. Going to make so much money. Life is going to be sweet, right? It's going to be one of those two things. I don't think, put it this way, the people I coach, the people I work with, they don't tend to have to think too long about what that thing, that path is going to be. It's usually something that they can come to relatively quickly. And really, I think it comes down to two things. Number one, what do you know a lot about? Because obviously you're going to serve somebody, you're going to build a business around something specifically or a platform around something specifically. You've got to know what you're talking about. Otherwise, people will see you once and they'll tune out and never come back again. And that's why, when we can use our the analogy of the Pokemon thing and the cards and everything, like there's one guy who is an ex-attorney. His name is Leonhardt. All he does every day is open packs of Pokemon cards. That's it. But when you sit there, Pat's like, I want to have Leonhardt's job.
No, I love my job, but I also want to do his job too.
Sure, I get it. Maybe we'll put together like the old man. We'll do like we talked about this. It's gonna be an old man Pokemon card opening channel. It might.
Yeah, like AFOL's adult fans of Lego or adult fans of Pokemon.
It'll work. It'll absolutely work.
Maybe not.
Okay. But I use him as an example because he's an ex-attorney, but he had this passion ever since he was a kid for Pokemon cards. And obviously that knowledge, for some reason, our brain keeps all this weird knowledge from when we're young. And it only takes 2 or 3 things to happen for it to all be just ignited again, right? Mm-hmm. And so he now gets to do what he does every single day. And he serves hundreds of thousands of people in the process every single day. But people wouldn't tune in day after day after day after day the way they do unless he genuinely knew what he was talking about, right? Plain and simple. And so it's the same with Team Flynn. These guys turn up every day here on the stream because look, it's almost like I queued it up. Did you see I did that with no hands as well, by the way, that little graphic? There we go, I'll do it again. So like they turn up every day to watch the income stream because they like you first and foremost, but only do they come back every day because obviously you provide lots of value based around this one topic, right? Of being a more professional, more successful content creator, and online entrepreneur. And so you've got to know what you're talking about. There's no doubt about that. But then the other spoke to that wheel is to have passion for what you're going to talk about. Because with no passion, even if you know what you're talking about, with no passion, it's not going to come across in the right way for people, and they'll be turned off because of that reason as well, and you won't last very well. So it's a combination of the two, the passion and the genuine knowledge, plain and simple.
So good. Definitely high five for that one. Boom. So I want to talk about two more things here. We got about 20 minutes left. You had touched on this idea of, and we'll talk about monetization last, like monetizing your personal brand. What can you do when you build this tribe to make money and not be sleazy, essentially, is what we're going to talk about. But first, you'd mentioned, the quarantine here. Thank you guys for showing up every day, whether you're watching the replay or here live. It's been 231 days straight. I know people show up because I'm here. I know people show up because I provide value. We talk about a lot of things very deeply, like today. But I also know they show up for each other. There are so many people here who have connected with each other. If you're in the chat and you've become friends with somebody who you've met here on the income stream, let me know in the chat. I want to point some of these people out. But the community is a really important component of your personal brand as well, as you very well know, because you have an amazing tribe as well, and it's about the tribe. How does one who has a personal brand begin to actually connect their audiences together? Because this is the sort of third tier of the superfans pyramid, which is taking a person who's subscribed and now putting them into the community, making them not just talk to you and you talk to them, but them being able to speak to each other. And that's the cool thing about the income stream and why I've continued to do it, because so many amazing things have happened for sure. Corn fam, says Francis. Too many to list, says Peasant Uprising. I'm friends with everybody, right? Rhino Dog is my dog. I've made friends. Yep, rich rewards and relationships within this community. How does one who, even at the start of their journey building their personal brand, facilitate and create a container or a space for their community to show up and meet each other?
Well, number one, you've got to want to do it, right? And I just want to say, like, you will create a community around you if you're just showing up and providing value anyway. Now, you can leave it there if you want. It's absolutely fine to do so. Don't feel the pressure to have to go further, right? But if you do want to facilitate more within the community, if you do want to show up more and be that connector of people, then get people together in a Facebook group, bring people together in a live event environment, get onto Zoom once a week and do office hours. By the way, charge for that. Don't do that one for free, right? Like all these things that people will pay for the convenience, just like they would do if they were to get on a bus or a train, go down to the cafe and have a meet up there. They spend $6-7 on getting there. They'd spend another $15 on a luxury cup of coffee and a pastry of some variety. That's $20 in. Like charge the $20 for the Zoom, hang out for a couple of hours, do some virtual cocktails, whatever you're going to do, and get people to kind of break out into little breakout rooms, spend some time learning, do some Q&A, juggle, do what you want to do. Just bring people together. You see, my focus on this when it comes to being a leader of a community, and I'll use a Star Wars reference here because I know you're a big Star Wars fan, as am I. And I can't help but notice, I want to point something out very quickly. In this chat, you got a hell of a lot of nerds in this chat, and I love them all for it. There's a lot of nerds in this crew right here, and there's nothing wrong with being a nerd. I'm a nerd myself, so there you go. I have no hair, so that makes me a cool nerd, a cool old nerd. I don't know, but anyway, this is the way I look at it, and I'll use a Star Wars analogy here, right, and see whether you can pick up what I'm putting down with this. I believe, even though Luke Skywalker was the young guy that had all the energy, that had the lightsaber, that he found through an old mentor of his and went on this epic journey and saved the universe multiple times over with his buddies. He was the hero. Nothing wrong with Luke. Luke was a cool cat. Let's not beat around the bush here, right? But he's the hero. I want to be Obi-Wan. I want to be the guide. I want to be the one that brings everybody together. for that mission. I want to be the one that when everything's said and done and the dust settles and everyone's had a great time, they turn around and say, man, if it wasn't for Chris and this event or this call or this mastermind or this meetup, we wouldn't have got the opportunity to meet each other. We owe Chris a lovely bottle of single malt whiskey. Let's go buy him one. That's what I want people to say. I don't want to be Luke. I don't want to be Luke. I want to be Obi-Wan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. And it makes so much sense that I'm going to break out.
Yeah, with the sound effect. That could have been better. The sound effect could have been better. But I like your little mini lightsaber there.
How about this?
You sound like Jackie Chan or something.
Right.
Oh, dear me.
Anyway, yeah, the Obi-Wan, or I often say I want to be the Yoda, or the guide, right? Because everybody wants to get that same information. Heroes have faults, as everybody has faults, but this is very much along the lines of, and we've discussed this book before here on the channel, Story Brand by Donald Miller, right? Your customers and your subscribers, your followers, they are the hero of the story. You are the guide that they all want to go to, right? And when you can showcase those stories and when you can bring them and surface them, great things happen all around. People are more able to relate to those stories. People are more able to see a version of themselves just a few steps behind those people. The episodes of the SPA podcast where I have like no names on, if you will, people who have never been heard of before, they often get more downloads than when I get Gary Vee or Tim Ferriss or other large names, because again, those are just people who are in the audience who had taken action, and people get more inspired by that because it seems just more achievable. So anyway, thank you, chat. This is a great conversation here. We could talk for days about community for sure, and that's its own episode, and we've talked about that several times before. But I want to transition into making some money and how we can monetize our personal brand. Thank you, Hey Archer, for the super chat, by the way, earlier. I appreciate that. Making money from our tribe. I know some people get they change when it's like, oh, okay, we got to make this a business now. Things change. We start to get a little nervous. We get sweaty palms. We start to promote things halfway because we're a little worried about how people will respond, or we just might not even know how to monetize. How do we monetize our personal brands, Chris?
Well, first of all, we've got to understand that if we don't monetize everything else that we've done, let's just recap, right? So we've built our audience. We are amplifying our message, right? We've become an expert, a leader in our industry. We've built that community. We've leveraged that community to be able to maybe publish our first book or do something, right? To be able to bring people together in terms of that community. Eventually, there will be a natural conclusion to the cycle up to this point. And it is about making money. Now, for us to be able to get there, you've got to do all that work first. So it doesn't come overnight, obviously, but understand that you must be seen to sell in order to build influence. You must be seen to sell, because if you don't start creating products and services to solve the problems that your people are experiencing, guess what's going to happen? They'll love you, but they'll go. They'll go. Because if, using an analogy of maybe a restaurant, and this happened many years ago with myself and Urs, we were in Hong Kong, and there was this amazing restaurant that the concierge in our hotel had suggested that we go and check out. So we go, it was just a couple away from our hotel. We go to this hotel and it's closed down. Something's happened. There was a burst water pipe or whatever. I don't know, but it's shut. What did we do? Did we go back to the hotel and stay hungry? Or did we go to another restaurant and eat somewhere else? That's what's going to happen here. That's exactly what is going to happen here. So we must be seen to sell. Number one, our people at this point in that journey are ready and waiting to invest in their continued journey by buying something from you. That's the first thing you've got to understand. The second thing you have to understand is that by not creating a solution to a problem that they are experiencing, you are ultimately pushing them away, whether you like it or not. So I say that there's really 6 really good ways to be able to monetize a personal brand business. And I will be going into these in great detail as part of the bootcamp. So if you want to dive even deeper on this, go ahead and sign up and get involved with that. But I'll touch base on them very quickly so everybody can kind of get their head around it. So first and foremost, the easiest way and the most lowest hanging fruit when it comes to monetization of your experience in your personal brand is access to you. So we're talking about coaching and consulting ultimately. Now, this is not the most scalable monetization strategy, obviously, because there's only one you and only so many hours in the day, but it's right there, man. It's right there for the picking. You've just got to offer it, plain and simple. And I worked with a client not so long ago who all he did, and he was so scared to do this, but he did it anyway because I forced him into it. Not physically, I shook my fist right there, but I forced him into it as his coach and said, look, the next email you send out, put a PS at the bottom of your email and say, hey, I've had a lot of people reach out and say they'd like a little bit more one-on-one time with me. I'm opening up 3 slots next week at $500 a pop. We can get on the Zoom and we'll go one-on-one for an entire hour for $500. If you're interested, click the link for more info. How long do you think it took him to sell those 3 spots? Well, I'll tell you. He hit send on the email, and within 1 hour, he made himself $1,500. He would not have brought that money into his business if he had not have engulfed the power of the PS, right? So fact of the matter is, you've got to be seen to sell. So number 1, coaching. Number 2, affiliate marketing. Nobody does this better on the planet than you. I've said that 100 times over. You do affiliate marketing better than anyone. If you ever want to learn how to sell products and services that aren't yours to the people that follow you for what you provide to them, buy Pat's course on being a great affiliate marketer. There's no one better to learn from. He hasn't asked me or paid me to give this little plug to his course, but you must make sure that you check it out because nobody does it better. But affiliate marketing is a great way to be able to consistently show up and create revenue opportunities. It's a slow burner, but it's going to be there all the time on your website, in your emails, on your podcast, everywhere, right? Number 3, books. I've said it 100 times over. It's a $20 business card that's going to bring you a lot more money. Chris Brogan once said to me many years ago, you won't get rich writing and marketing a book, but you will get busy. I want to add something onto that. We're saying, and with that busyness, if you're charging what you're worth, you will actually end up making a lot of money out of it. So books for me are like the perfect expert positioning strategy. I love them. It doesn't mean you've got to write one every year. I mean, if you want to become a leader in a niche, you've got to jump on the idea of getting a book out there. And with self-publishing now available to everybody, it's never been easier. So that's number 3, books. Number 4, online products and courses, right? You do the work once and then you just market it over and over and over again. It is truly passive income once you put the time in to actually create the course in the first place. And that includes obviously doing the research and validating it and launching it initially and all that fun stuff. But once it's done, it's just a matter, as you do, and very successfully, just consistently coming up with those course launches as and when the time is right, right? So that's number 4, courses, online products, downloadables, that kind of stuff. Number 5 is memberships. Now, you just started this with SPI Pro. I've got the Youpreneur Academy, and there are many other people out there that have got successful memberships as well. This is not passive.
Definitely not
in the slightest. When understand that when you're bringing people together as part of a subscription service, and that's ultimately what it is, in the business, particularly in the business world, crafts, health and fitness, that sort of type of stuff. When you're charging somebody every single month, you got to show up every single month, plain simple. So understand, not passive, but a great way to consistently, in an ongoing basis, bring in additional revenue into your business. I mean, the reason why I like memberships is, number one, they are recurring, but number two, more importantly, they're predictable. They're predictable, and every business needs predictable income, plain and simple. So that's number 5. And then number 6, probably my most favorite way to be able to monetize your personal brand, is to do so by bringing people together, by holding events. I'm not a big fan of virtual events just yet. I'm getting there, slowly but surely. I like bringing the people together in person, and I've been doing it for a decade, as you well know. Yeah. And I just love the energy of getting 300, 400, 500 people in the same room with all, they all get it. They're all there for the same reason. You can't beat that. Not only can you make money on ticket sales, but you can make money, obviously, by providing offers to them at that event to be able to take that journey further with you, should they see the reason behind doing so. And there you go. That's your top 6 ways to monetize your personal brand and your experience.
Thank you for that, Chris. There are other ways to monetize, of course. You didn't mention or touch on advertising, which I think is smart. I think a lot of people think, okay, let me build this giant tribe and make money with a lot of ads. But the tough thing about that is you have to have large numbers to either attract advertisers or to make a significant amount on places like YouTube or whatnot, where you get some AdSense income, versus even with 100 people on your email list, you could potentially make a 6-figure business with some coaching or consulting. So, start early and serve your audience. And that's the beauty of this. I know some people who've also had personal brands who have developed software, which is passive eventually, but there's a bigger sort of learning curve, and you have to sort of invest into developers and whatnot if you're not a developer yourself. But that can be another, similar to memberships, way to have some recurring, predictable income, very scalable. But of course, software breaks, there's bugs, you have to keep them updated, especially if it's something like a WordPress theme that lives on top of a ever-changing platform. You got to be careful about that. But what a wonderful overview. If you want to get more information from Chris, I highly recommend signing up for Chris's bootcamp. That's again at chrisducker.com/bootcamp. Chat, who's here live, tell me and Chris what has been the best piece of advice that you've learned today. I'd love to hear that and see that. Amine Unshakable says, these two guys, favorite people in the online sphere. Thank you, Amine. Always great to see your avatar show up. You've been a follower of ours for years. It's just, I appreciate you. I see.
And Amin has been to the Upreneur Summit every single year as well. So I'm going to be missing giving him my annual handshake, hug, and high five this year.
He says, I miss the old version of Business Breakthrough back in the days. Chris and Pat. Yeah, that was our old podcast. We need to do that again, but it made more sense to do it when we were traveling together, and things are crazy right now. But Martin says, all of it, great stuff, Chris. Thank you. Reinforcement for being myself. That's a huge one. Amazing. Chris, this was awesome. JD, I have to leave. I will watch this again. Bye, everyone. Chris, this was super fantastic. Thank you again for coming on today. Highly recommend checking out your bootcamp for everybody. chrisducker.com/bootcamp. And thanks for joining me on the show. You want to stick around through the outro with me?
Yeah, let's do it. It's fun.
All right.
Thanks for having me. And kudos to a great tribe. I can see in the comments, I was looking at them. I hope you thought I wasn't sort of developing a lazy eye or anything. I was looking at the comments as you were chatting in between our sessions here. And everybody gets this. Yeah. They get it. They can see the opportunity in it. And this is what's so damn exciting about this thing. Like you're way more in control of this business model than you are any other business model. I stand by that 100%, hence the future-proof side of things. So thanks for having me on, man. It's good to jam as always, but it's always good to be able to serve up a bit of value for your guys as well.
Dude, always good to jam. I appreciate my friend. As always, Team Flynn for the win. Let's bring it home.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired.
Yes,
with no
right.
fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
Chris, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. Say hi to the family for me. I know we miss you over here. I was supposed to go to London with the family to see you. Like,
we were going to do
weeks.
Thanksgiving, remember?
Yeah, we were going to bring U.S. Thanksgiving to London maybe next year. But anyway,
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Appreciate the chat. Thank you so much. And signing off. Take care.
Got it.
Bruh.